The resignation letter took 11 minutes to write. 11 years to earn the right to send it. 11 minutes to send it. And in the days that followed, the question she received most often from people who knew the number she was walking away from was not how or why or what comes next. It was a single word, asked with a mixture of concern and something that resembled accusation. Are you sure? Not are you okay? Not what do you need? Are you sure? As if the primary risk of the decision was mathematical. As if the only variable worth examining was the income column. As if a person who had spent 11 years demonstrating the capacity for sound judgment might require protection. In the moment of her most considered decision, from herself, she was sure, with a clarity that had taken not 11 minutes but nearly 3 years to fully arrive. And the life she walked toward on the other side of that letter is the subject of this investigation. Not because it is dramatic, because it is quietly, specifically, almost unbearably ordinary in ways that turn out to be the point. She had been earning at the level that earns the specific kind of social respect that high compensation purchases in professional environments. The title was real. The institutional standing was real. The compensation package that placed her in a statistical fraction of all earners was real and growing and showed no indication of reversing. By the metrics the career had always used to measure itself, she was succeeding completely. By a different set of metrics ones she had not applied seriously in years, something was failing in a way the professional metrics could not see. Go to the comments and write 2 sets of metrics if you have ever felt the gap between the professional measurement of your life and a different, harder to name measurement that the professional one consistently wins over. Because that gap is the territory this investigation is built to explore. And most people live inside it for years before naming it clearly enough to address. Here is the specific failure the professional metrics could not measure. She had stopped being the author of her own days. Not through any single dramatic surrender, through the accumulation of small, individually reasonable professional obligations that had quietly colonized every temporal resource she possessed until the concept of an unscheduled hour had become, in practical terms, theoretical. The calendar was full. The demands were legitimate. The compensation reflected the degree to which her time and attention had been purchased by an institution whose requirements were thorough and whose indifference to her interior life was not hostile but structural. Institutions are indifferent to the interior lives of the people they employ. That is not a criticism. It is a description. The arrangement compensates for time and output. What the person inside the arrangement does with their remaining hours is not the institution's concern. What she was doing with her remaining hours was recovering, preparing, managing the background processing load of a role that did not end when the office closed, because the role was the kind that does not close. Sunday evenings were not rest. They were the quiet gathering of the week ahead into consciousness before the week had officially begun. The vacation days were recovery operations rather than genuine departures. The relationships in her personal life were receiving the quality of attention that remained after the professional obligations had taken what they required, which was, by the final year, not enough. The behavioral research on what psychologists call cognitive residue is illuminating here and almost never appears in the financial conversation about high-income careers. Cognitive residue is the specific phenomenon by which unfinished professional tasks continue occupying mental bandwidth even in the absence of active work. The meeting you are half processing during dinner. The decision running in the background while you are ostensibly present in a conversation that deserves your full attention. The way the professional mind does not actually close when the laptop does, because the volume and complexity of its open loops exceeds the capacity of any defined working hour to contain. High-income roles generate cognitive residue at a rate that is proportional to their compensation, because the compensation reflects the stakes. And the stakes ensure that the cognitive processing continues regardless of the hour, the location, or the relationship currently present in the room. She was not working 70 hours a week. She was working continuously at varying intensities. And the portions she was not actively working, she was passively processing. And the portions she was passively processing, she was not genuinely present for anything else. She calculated at some point in year 9 that she had been genuinely present fully, undistractedly, cognitively available without residue for approximately 30 minutes per day on average across the previous year. Not leisure. Presence, 30 minutes daily of genuine, uncontaminated inhabitation of her own life. The rest was either work or the shadow of it. Comment shadow work if that concept just described something real in your own daily experience. Because the shadow of professional obligation, the cognitive residue that occupies the hours technically outside work, is the most invisible and least calculated cost in high-demand careers. And it is being paid for, every day, by the person least able to see what they are spending. The 3 years between the first honest accounting and the resignation letter were not years of doubt. They were years of construction. She was not deciding whether to leave. She had understood by the end of year 9 that the decision was already made at the level where real decisions live, below the professional identity and the compensation comparison and the social validation of remaining in a role that the people around her universally considered a success. She was building the structure that would make leaving an intelligent transition rather than an emotional escape. She built a consulting practice around the genuine scarcity of her expertise, selectively, at rates that reflected what the institutional role had demonstrated her knowledge was worth, in conditions she defined, during hours she chose, under terms that preserved the specific resource the institutional role had been consuming without remainder, her presence. Her actual, unresidued, cognitively available presence in the moments of her life that were not work. The income dropped. She does not present that as irrelevant. It is relevant. The gap between the previous number and the current one is a real gap that required real planning to navigate and real adjustment to accept. What she will say, and what this investigation is structured around examining, is that the gap purchased something that the original number was extracting from her daily at a rate the original number was not fully disclosing. Here is the insight at the center of this story that most financial content is not equipped to deliver. The thing she walked toward the life on the other side of the resignation letter is not remarkable by any external measure. There is no destination in it, no milestone, no achievement that would register in any professional context as the kind of success that earns the particular quality of attention a $1 million salary commands. What it contains is ordinary time, the Tuesday morning that belongs to no one's requirements, the afternoon that ends when she decides it ends, the conversation across the table that receives her full presence because nothing is running in the background processing the week ahead. These are not consolation prizes for a person who traded down. They are the specific, unreproducible, entirely finite experiences that constitute what a human life actually consists of when the professional scaffolding is removed and the days are examined for what they actually contain rather than what they produce. She is living in her own life now. That sentence sounds simple. It describes something that a significant percentage of high earners have not experienced since before the career acquired enough momentum to make the experience feel unaffordable. The day she walked away from $1 million, she gained something that the $1 million had been structurally unable to provide: the ordinary day. Unremarkable, unscheduled, entirely hers. And the thing about the ordinary day, once you have been without it long enough, is that it turns out to be the primary unit of a life well lived rather than the remainder left over after the primary units have been sold. Most people will earn less than she walked away from and will never face the specific version of this choice. But the accounting she ran, the full accounting, both columns, every resource, not just the financial ones, is available to anyone, at any income level, in any professional arrangement. And the number it produces is different for every person who runs it honestly. The question is whether you are willing to look at both columns. So here is where this investigation ends. Not with a strategy, not with a framework, with the specific question she sat with for nearly 3 years before she was honest enough with herself to answer it fully. What is the life you are building? And is the way you are spending your days consistent with the life you are supposedly building them toward? Go to the comments and write the answer that arrives before the defending begins. Because the first answer, the unguarded one, already knows what the full accounting says, and it has been waiting for you to ask.